The bad part of AI is the stuff we're living through now, right? It's the using the data to make decisions that are terrible. It's not the intelligence that's going to go out there and surpass us and, take over the world or, lock us into a room to starve to death slowly over multiple days. It's instead the tools that we're building that are allowing us to make the terrible decisions we would have less efficiently made before, right? Computers are very good at making us more efficient, including being more efficient at doing terrible things. And that's the part of the AI we have to worry about. It's not the, true intelligence that we're going to build sometime in the future, probably long after we're around. But, I think that whole framing of it sort of misses the point, even though it is inspiring. And I was inspired by those ideas, right? That I got into this in part because I wanted to build something like that. Philosophical questions are interesting to me, but that's not where the terror comes from. The terror comes from the everyday.
And you can construct it's a subtlety of the interaction between AI and the human, like with social networks, all the stuff you're doing with interactive artificial intelligence. But I feel like HAL 9000 came a little bit closer to that in 2001: Space Odyssey, because it felt like a personal assistant. It felt like closer to the AI systems we have today, and the real things we might actually encounter, which is over relying in some fundamental way on our like dumb assistants or on social networks, like over offloading too much of us onto onto things that require internet and power and so on, and thereby becoming powerless as a standalone entity. And then when that thing starts to misbehave in some subtle way, it creates a lot of problems. And those problems are dramatized when you're in space because you don't have a way to walk away.
Well, as the man said, once we started making the decisions for you, it stopped being your world, right? That's the Matrix, Michael, in case you don't.
I didn't catch it. Thank you.
You don't remember. But on the other hand, I could say no, because isn't that what we do with people anyway? This kind of the shared intelligence that is humanity is relying on other people constantly. We hyper specialize, right? As individuals. We're still generally intelligent. We make our own decisions in a lot of ways, but we leave most of this up to other people, and that's perfectly fine. And by the way, everyone doesn't necessarily share our goals. Sometimes they seem to be quite against us. Sometimes we make decisions that others would see as against our own interests, and yet we somehow manage to survive. I'm not entirely sure why an AI would actually make that worse or even different, really.
You mentioned the Matrix. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
It does feel like a thought game more than a real scientific question.
Well, I'll tell you why. I think it's an interesting thought experiment. See what you think. From a computer science perspective, it's a good experiment of how difficult would it be to create a sufficiently realistic world that us humans would enjoy being in. That's almost like
if we're living in a simulation, then I don't believe that we were put in the simulation. I believe that it's just physics playing out, and we came out of that. Like I don't think.
So you think you have to build the universe?
I think that the universe itself, we can think of that as a simulation. And in fact, sometimes I try to think about, to understand what it's like for a computer to start to think about the world. I try to think about the world, things like quantum mechanics, where it doesn't feel very natural to me at all. And it really strikes me as, I don't understand this thing that we're living in. There's weird things happening in it that don't feel natural to me at all.